Hey everyone, with the Avengers Endgame Final Battle SH Figuarts approaching soon, I thought I'd do a then and now comparison video of some of the Bandai SH Figuarts made in the past and the present. So this is for the Avengers Original 6, so those of you who don't know, it is Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Thor and Hawkeye. So it's essentially some of their first figures made by Bandai, or their first armors, compared to the Endgame version. So it's not going to be a figure review because I know there's plenty out there and I've done the ones for the Endgame, but it's a casual chat where I'll be comparing the looks, giving you my opinions and which one I like better overall. So for Hulk, Black Widow, Thor and Hawkeye, I'll be comparing their first ever release, the Age of Ultron version, up against the Endgame ones. For Iron Man, it's not his first release, but one of his first red and gold armors, the Mark III, up against the Endgame Mark 85. And for Captain America, as I don't have the Age of Ultron one with me, I'm going to be comparing it with another fantastic figure, which is the Civil War version, up against the Endgame one. Just before we begin with the figures, I wanted to mention the design of the boxes. I actually really like all the ones up until Infinity War. Let's take for example the Captain America Civil War. There's a lot more going on at the front as well as the side, whereas the Endgame versions went for a more simple look which resembles the Quantum suit. It's not too important for some people, but as a backdrop or just having the figures displayed inside the boxes, I prefer the older designs. So first up is the comparison of the two Hulks. The one on the left is the Age of Ultron made in 2015, and the one on the right is the Endgame version made 5 years later. Now I know it's not a very fair comparison as they're both totally different looks. Maybe the Infinity War Hulk is more of a fair comparison, so I'll bring that in a bit later on. So first I'm going to mention the Hulk on the left, which is the Age of Ultron. Now, I don't think it deserves the criticism that some people have said in the reviews. They said that it looks too anime. Some people have said it looks like a very green Hulk, like a wasabi type of color. And people haven't really liked the overall build of this figure, especially when you do the articulation. It creates a lot of gaps. But in terms of the overall look, I actually really like this Hulk. It is a bit underrated in my opinion. I know it does have a bit of an animated figure feel to it, but you gotta give credit to SH Figuarts as this was their first ever Hulk figure, or at least their first ever Marvel figure they made. So the one on the right, the Endgame version, this was a bit of a disappointment to be honest, as they didn't give us a Hulk with the glasses, and just overall it's a very bland figure in terms of articulation and the look. So only if you really enjoyed the Endgame movie and you just want to collect all the SH Figuarts, you would go for this Hulk. So yeah, it totally smashes the Endgame version with no pun intended. But I'm actually really happy with this Hulk, and even though I have the Infinity War version, which I'll bring in now, this one is a much better sculpt. It's definitely one of the best SH Figuarts I own. But I'm actually happy to have both of them. I mean, one I can display for the Infinity Saga where either he's battling Thanos or some sort of other pose, whereas this one I can put it with the original team and just have that sort of iconic scene. So if I had to pick between the Infinity War and the Age of Ultron, obviously I'll go for the Infinity War version because it's a lot better. But if we're comparing the first ever Hulk with the last Hulk that they've released so far, the Age of Ultron one wins. I'm going to bring in the Thor, the son of Odin. So these again are totally different looks of Thor, the Age of Ultron version, which is the first one they ever made, compared to the one they made 5 years later. So for the Age of Ultron one, again, a lot of people compared this to some of the other figures and said that this was not as good, not even as well made as the Marvel Legends version. To me, it looks okay, I guess, for a first ever Thor. I know that the tone of the face is a bit different to the arms, so that's a bit of a disappointment. But in terms of the look compared to Chris Hemsworth, I think they've done a decent amount of work into that face. Now, one other thing I don't like is the hard plastic of this cape, because I think it sort of weighs down the figure slightly, and there's also certain poses that you can't really do, so you can actually take it off. And this one actually includes a fair few amount of accessories, including the eyes looking to the side, whereas the Endgame version, they didn't give us any alternate head. But in terms of the overall build of the figure, so we're talking about the quality of the suit, you can see there's a lot more vibrancy and shine to it. I just prefer the Endgame version, and I think it resembles Chris Hemsworth a lot better than the Age of Ultron version. And also another point is they've used a soft cape, which they've done for most of the figures since then. Whereas this one, they went for a hard plastic, which I don't like. And they even put it on the Doctor Strange figure as well. So yeah, overall, I'll probably go for the Endgame version. But if you want a more iconic and definitive look, you'll probably choose the Age of Ultron look. So some people are still waiting on the Avengers, the first movie 4, which I believe they will be releasing very soon because I have seen a prototype of it. And some people just prefer the Infinity War version, which is essentially this Thor in the suit with the short hair, and of course minus the belly. So overall, I like both of these 4, and I'm happy that I own both of them. But if I had to choose a winner, I'll probably go for the Endgame version. And now we can move on to Hawkeye. Now, they've only made 2 Hawkeye figures, I believe, if you don't include Ronan for S.H Figuarts. So it's the Age of Ultron version and the one they made in Endgame. Now, they're pretty similar. I would say that out of all the original 6, they're probably the most similar in terms of the looks. Yeah, there's not much difference in terms of the figures. They both come with the quill, both come with the bow and arrow, whether you have it like this or like this. And both of the face sculpts kind of resemble Jeremy Renner, or Clint Barton if you want to call him. So I'm actually happy with both of them. Now, if I had to pick a winner, I'll probably slightly go for the Endgame version. Maybe he looks slightly better. Just my opinion though. But it's very hard to choose. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this figure is that they didn't give us one where he's just the arrow on its own, so that Hawkeye is holding onto the arrow. It's either attached to the bow or it's behind him. So I guess that's something they could do for future Hawkeyes if they do the first Avengers one, or even, I don't know, some other one they wanted to do. I know that Hawkeye actually had short sleeves in the final battle of Age of Ultron, so some people probably prefer that as the definitive look. But I guess I can't complain too much as they've given us 2 very good Hawkeye figures. So if I had to pick a winner, I'll go for the Endgame one just slightly, but this one is pretty much a tie. And now we compare Black Widow. Now, the Age of Ultron one is the first ever release of Black Widow. And then 5 years later, they released the Endgame version. So you can see that they're totally different looks because Scarlett Johansson did actually change her hairstyle in almost all 4 of the movies. But I think in terms of the definitive look, I'll probably go for the Age of Ultron version because it was just more iconic in the first 2 movies with this hairstyle. Now, in terms of the build quality, there's actually not much to really define which one is better. I think the Endgame one has a lot more variety in terms of the hands, and also you can take off the batons on the back as well as the guns and the gun pockets. Whereas the Age of Ultron one, I know there's a lot of gadgets on the side where you can take off, but there's no gun pockets where you can remove or attach the gun onto. And of course you can't put the batons on the back, but I don't remember her actually having batons behind her in the Age of Ultron. So both of them resemble Natasha, so it's pretty much a very close call. And it'll be interesting once they release the Black Widow movie version of her, how well that one compares, as well as the Infinity War one. So maybe in the future I'll do like a full comparison video of all the Black Widows. But so far I'm happy with both of these, and it's a very tough choice to choose between the 2. Maybe the overall sculpt of the Endgame one is better, but I think if I had to pick one winner, I'll just go for this one simply because of the classic look of Black Widow. So now we can move on to Captain America. And to me, Cap is one of the most important characters in Avengers. And there's plenty of figures of him, including the Age of Ultron, Infinity War. Of course, now we have the Civil War version up against the Endgame one. And I'm very excited for the final battle Captain America, because I think that will be probably one of the most definitive looks of Captain America now. Now, the Civil War one was the first time they gave us a Steve Rogers head sculpt, which is actually really good. I think it looks a lot like Chris Evans. And yeah, I'm really pleased with this. I think it's much better than the Infinity War version. And also they're actually making two more, the final battle and also the Cap versus Cap version. Now, in terms of the overall look of these figures, I actually prefer the Civil War version. Now, the reason why is because I just prefer his overall suit, just the way it looks, just the design of it. Whereas the Endgame one seems a bit bland to me, I don't know why. And the overall build of the figure, for some reason this Steve Rogers looks a lot more bulkier, which is more movie accurate. The one in Endgame to me seems a bit thin if you compare it to what we see in the movie. But in terms of the accessories, the amount of options you can do with the shield, whether he's throwing it, whether you place it on the back, they're both pretty similar. But the shields are slightly different in terms of color, I think. The Endgame one is slightly lighter. So if I had to pick a winner, I'll probably go for the Civil War version. And the Endgame one, maybe psychologically, I know that there's a final battle one coming out. That's probably why I'm not too pleased with this one, and I'll probably put it to the side once the final battle one is purchased, because that one just has a more definitive look with the Mjolnir and the broken shield. So it'll be interesting to see once that is released. But for now, I'm going to go for the Civil War version. So for Hulk, I've gone for Age of Ultron. For Black Widow, I've gone for Age of Ultron. For Cap, I've gone for Civil War. For Thor, I've gone for the Endgame. And for Hawkeye, I've gone for Endgame. So at the moment, it's 3-2 to the past. And now the final one is the Iron Man, Tony Stark, of course. Now, I don't have the first ever Iron Man released by Figuarts, which I think was Mark 6 in 2013. So I'm going to compare it with one of his first armors in the MCU, which is the Mark 3, which is a classic look, and comparing it with the Endgame Mark 85, which again is a very classic look as well. Now, most of the Iron Man figures, I'm actually happy. Every time I've picked up a Figuarts Iron Man, I'm pretty pleased with the way it's built, the accessories it includes, so I don't really have too many complaints. And I think it's more easier to build a helmet version compared to like a face sculpt for the other characters. Now, in terms of definitive look, I think the Mark III is more of an iconic one, seeing as it's the first red and gold. So a lot more people will probably like this on their shelves. For the Mark 85, I just prefer the overall armor of it. I think it's upgraded a lot more over the years. So when the Endgame Final Battle one comes out, I think that one is probably going to overtake this version, simply because it has a battle damaged type of armor. It also includes a lot more weapons, and it also includes the Tony Stark head sculpt. But if I had to pick a winner, maybe I'll go for the Mark 85, just because it's the newer armor. But I think once the final battle version comes out, I'll probably put that one in display more alongside the Mark III rather than having this one. But in the future, I'm going to probably compare all my Iron Man armors all in one go. So that was a comparison of some of the past and present SH Figuarts for the original Avengers. If you'd like to see the full list of every Marvel release by Bandai, head over to my channel and click on the last video. I've also put the links in the description for the news on the upcoming SH Figuarts, Loki and Captain America, as well as my full Endgame collection video and the reviews for the figures since then. And remember to stay tuned as the Avengers Final Battle figures are coming soon. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.